Man, the Wild West. Who doesn't love the Wild West? Maybe you don't. I don't know. I mean, you're watching a video about Red Dead, so I can assume you at least tolerate it, or at the very least enjoy playing games about it. And there is no spot in history or in pop culture that represents the Wild West quite like a good old-fashioned Western saloon. And with Red Dead Redemption 2 and Red Dead Redemption 1 by extension obviously being Western games, it's only fitting that said games have all sorts of saloons for you to drink in, explore, and play cards in. In my video ranking the towns of Red Dead Redemption 2, I mentioned that saloons you'll find more often than not are the heart and souls of whatever town you're visiting. It's where all the citizens of any town you explore go after a hard day's work to drown their sorrows in liquor or gamble their savings away. Red Dead Redemption 2 has 9 saloons, so like how I ranked the towns in my previous video, in this one I'm going to be ranking all of the saloons from all sorts of factors: the vibes, the aesthetic, the demographics, how often I find myself hanging out there, what the saloon has to offer. So, if ranking fake polygon saloons in a Wild West game suits you, or sounds interesting, or at the very least it occupies your time, then stick around, watch this video. You might gain something. I don't know. Or not. Subscribe. So coming in at last place at number 9 is going to be the Armadillo Saloon. This saloon kinda had to be in last place, seeing as Armadillo's in the middle of a cholera outbreak. The saloon is completely dead, it's nearly abandoned. Every patron that is in there is 1 foot in the grave, dying of cholera, and drinking themselves to death to meet a quicker end. And the funny thing about Armadillo is it definitely would be a contender for number 1 if it wasn't for the time that the game is set. Because the saloon is actually pretty big. It's carried over from the first game, and the look and layout of it is quintessential Wild West. It looks perfect. But it's just completely dead, and that sucks because when I swing open those saloon doors entering any establishment, I want the drinks to be flowing, the poker to be played, I want the gunslingers to be glaring at me, I want the ragtime piano music playing, you know, I want it to be alive. And Armadillo just is quite the opposite. So coming in next on the list, another weaker saloon, is going to be Doyle's Tavern in Saint Denis. This is the one that's right next to the market and the fence, so it's kind of like in the hood of Saint Denis in the slums. And you absolutely get that vibe from the saloon. It is seedy, it is small, it is cramped, it is dirty. I remember there's a side mission, a stranger encounter, where you have to just clear it of rats because it's so filthy. It also doesn't serve any food, and I don't think it has any gambling games, any card games, so the whole thing's kind of bare bones. There's not a lot going on. The demographics here are definitely more sketchy and working class. It's got Chinese immigrants and like gunslingers and stuff. I think the whole point of this saloon is to contrast with the fancy Bastille saloon that's just a few blocks away, also in Saint Denis. The demographics there are a lot more fancy and elite, well-dressed, while Doyle's is meant to be a more back alley and seedy environment. Both are necessary though, and both add a lot to Saint Denis. You need to show both sides of the city at this time. And it's great. I think it's a fun stop, but I don't find myself spending as much time here as any of the other saloons. It doesn't have any food, it doesn't have any lodging, it doesn't have any card games, which is, geez, a saloon without card games is crazy. Okay, so next up we've got Valentine's Shitty Saloon, KEANE'S, the smaller one that isn't SMITHFIELD'S. I don't got a lot to say about this one. It's got the look right, it's wooden, it's dirty, it's hobbled together, it's smaller, but I mean it still looks like a quintessential Western cantina or tavern or saloon, so I can't discredit it or knock it too much. The problem is it just doesn't have that much to offer. The only food you can get there is fucking oatmeal, and there's no games to play. Actually, that might be wrong. I know there's no card games, no poker or blackjack. There might be like five-finger fillet or something like that. I don't play those. I don't play dominoes or the knife game. I don't do either of those. They're just not as fun for me. I do love the saloon keep though. This bartender is probably my favorite in the whole game. I love the way he looks. He reminds me so much of the background characters you'd see in actual westerns. You know, directors like Sergio Leone, they would strategically cast extras with very distinct, rugged-looking faces. It adds so much character to the world and really gives you that Wild West flavor with everyone looking kind of odd and ugly, low-key. But honestly, that's all this saloon's got going for it. It's completely blown out of the water by the other saloon just down the street, SMITHFIELD'S. So next up is going to be Van Horn's Old Light Saloon. This spot is completely different from all the other saloons on the map. Like the entirety of Van Horn, it's got this sort of sea shanty, dark, gritty, maritime vibe going for it. It's stone, the ceilings are low, it doesn't look anything like what you'd expect a traditional Wild West saloon to look like, but it's a nice change of pace. But what it doesn't achieve in classic Wild West iconography, it absolutely does knock out of the park when it comes to the character. I said this already in my town ranking video, but Van Horn is like Mos Eisley in Star Wars. It is a hive of scum and villainy. Anyone you encounter in the Old Light Saloon is going to be eager to pick a fight with you, which I fucking love, especially since Van Horn doesn't have law enforcement. This is the perfect place to go to live out your Western fantasy of playing cards, drinking too much, getting into gunfights. It's very lawless and free. Anarchy. I love it. That's the main thing Van Horn has going for it, and the main thing this saloon has going for it. Also, this is the first saloon we've covered that has a card game, and it's got blackjack. I prefer blackjack in this game over poker. I find it has much more instant gratification with the quicker rounds and simpler stakes. And this is one of my go-to spots on the map to play blackjack in, just because I love the vibe of how lawless it feels here. It also has a lady saloon keep, a lady bartender, which I'm pretty sure is the only map to have that, which is always fun. I just love that the most dangerous and violent and rugged spot on the map has a lady saloon keep, especially for this era. I think that proves just how badass she is. Food here doesn't even seem that bad either. You know, for something called Lamb's Heart, it looks pretty damn good. It looks bussin'. Alright, we're getting into really good territory here. At number 5 is the RHODES Parlor House. So, kind of like the Van Horn Old Light Saloon, this is very different from most of the spots you're going to encounter on the map because it is super southern. It's very like fancy, antebellum South, Django Unchained vibes. Everyone has tailcoats, everything's painted white. There's rich ornamental designs and carvings in all the buildings and all throughout the parlor house. It's not called a saloon or tavern either, it's called a parlor house. It's just very fancy smancy, and not fancy like the Bastille Saloon in Saint Denis or the Blackwater Saloon. Fancy in its completely own, independent, and southern way, and I think that gives it so much character, and I love stopping by to visit here. I love the front porch. I love to go there and just get a nice view of Rhodes. I love to pick fights with the Gray family members that always come to the bar every night. Also, speaking of fighting, juxtapose this with Van Horn, where everyone's super tough and eager to fight you. Everyone in Rhodes is a total pussy. They're all fancy and rich, and they don't want to fight you, they're scared of you. You really feel like a scary Western cowboy here, which is fun. And finally, the food here seems pretty damn good, particularly the catfish. I love it when the foods in this game that you buy echo the region that you're in, and when I'm in the South, it's only fitting that I eat some fried catfish. I love it. Number 4, the Bastille Saloon in Saint Denis. So this is without a doubt the most fancy, high-class establishment in the game. This is the saloon of saloons. However, unlike most of the town of Saint Denis, it doesn't feel too out of place in a Western game. It maintains a lot of the iconography that you would recognize in a saloon in the Wild West. Like Rhodes, the crowd here is very elite and fancy, and the details in here are so rich and beautiful. It's very, very refined. The whole place just looks so classy. I love the entire second floor where the hookers hang out at. I love the stairwell. When you walk by the piano, it all looks incredible. It looks really, really nice. We're also reaching the territory where the saloons are going to have a lot more things to offer. For example, this one has lodging. It also has food, a delicious looking prime rib, and also, what else does it have? Oh, it has poker. So yeah, this saloon's great. It has a lot to offer, and it is a very fun, classy stop when you're in downtown Saint Denis. Number 3, the Tumbleweed Saloon. I really don't have much to say about this one because it's so perfect. It's just a Wild West saloon. Tumbleweed Saloon is also particularly run down and like hobbled together because Tumbleweed itself as a settlement is very small and new. I really love the color that it's painted on the exterior, that like rusty, grimy red that's faded over the years. I love how the interior looks. I love the people like gunslingers and outlaws and prostitutes. Everybody's very gritty and grimy, and that's exactly what I want. It's got the classic saloon doors you swing open, and it's also got the classic saloon exterior look where it's like a corner building. You know what I'm talking about? And oh my gosh, I almost forgot. The poker game, the poker table's in like a private little room, which feels so cool. cool and secret. It gives like real high stakes criminality, like gun smoke could erupt at any moment vibes. It's really cool. So overall, Tumbleweed Saloon, I wouldn't blame you if you put this as the best in the game. It's awesome. Number 2. Getting the silver medal is going to be the Blackwater Saloon. Yeah, the Blackwater Saloon isn't the most classic, rusty-dusty Western look in the game, but it without a doubt has the most to offer of any saloon. It has blackjack, it has poker, it has lodging, it has delicious food, well, I mean, it has a bath if it has lodging, but yeah, it has everything. It's the only saloon in the game to have both poker and blackjack, and then along with that, having lodging just makes this saloon have everything to offer. It's also really good looking. I love how it looks. I love its position in Blackwater, the view from the windows upstairs and the view from the windows downstairs. I love how it says Blackwater Saloon on the windows. The whole thing does feel very turn of the century of the era of the transition from the Wild West to the industrialized world. Because it's fancy. It's fancy like the Bastille Saloon. Not crazy though like the Rhodes Saloon. Like the Bastille Saloon. It still has those Western elements and layout, that classic vibe to it, which I love. It doesn't feel too alien. The advertising and artwork in the Blackwater Saloon feels a lot more modern and industrialized and like in terms of its graphic design and presentation than you see in most of the saloons in the game, because you can only access this one later in the time period of the game, like later chronologically, you know? And there's more hints and stuff like that. Like upstairs, there is a telephone, an old-timey telephone, which you would not expect to see in most Western settings. That's what I think of, like telegraphs or telegrams and stuff. I don't know, it's fun. Blackwater's different, but it just has so much to offer that it's up really high. And in first place, I feel like everybody saw this coming, is Smithfield's Saloon in Valentine. This spot wipes its neighboring saloon like off of the face of the earth, essentially. This place is awesome. It looks perfect. Yeah, it's not like a corner saloon, which is always what I think of whenever I think of the exterior of a saloon, but once you swing those doors open, you are in Wild West heaven. From the architecture and materials used to, of course, the actual layout of the saloon with the stairway going down, with the hookers with their fans all over the place, and the gunslingers and their chaps and fringed, like, jackets, you know, they're all glaring at you. It's really fun. It is perfect. Also, there's a barber in here, and this is probably the barber I use most in the game, because I'm not in St. Denis or Blackwater nearly as much as I'm in Valentine. I also love this barber. He's a really lovable dude. Love his sideburns, his mutton chops. They're cool. They're fun. I love to just sit on the bar, order a drink, and then not drink it, just so I can, like, my character can stay in that pose where he's resting on the bar, and I just look around and, like, scope out the area and just enjoy the scenery of how cool this is, how immersive this is. You know, I said this in my town ranking video, but if you showed like some kid growing up in the 40s or 50s who liked to play like cowboys or whatever, you show him that within like half a century this is what games and playing Wild West could be, they would go and they would shit their pants. This is incredible. It's an incredible feat in gaming. It's one of the most like immersive locations I've ever found myself in a video game, second only to, of course, Mos Eisley Cantina in LEGO Star Wars: The Complete Saga. In all seriousness, though, that's going to be a wrap on today's ranking. If you liked this video, be sure to like. And if you like this content, be sure to subscribe, and you can see more of it. Again, hope you sleep well tonight, and I hope you wake up tomorrow. Bye.